All right, so here we go. We got some new lights in here. Hopefully, the production quality will look better. It's been a little bit of some time since I last posted, so tomorrow I'm going to record like an actual podcast. Right now, I strictly want to talk sports. We'll talk, I guess, Judge, Yankees, and then we'll talk in general the MLB, free agency, winter meetings, all that stuff. And lastly, I'll throw in some football here because I've been loving me some Jets football. But let's first talk about Aaron Judge because I want to preface it with this. I like Aaron Judge, so I don't want to come off as negative. I like Aaron Judge a lot. I think he's a good leader. I think he plays an amazing right field or center field. I think he's a Gold Glove caliber fielder. Clearly, as a hitter, he's one of the best, if not the best in the league on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, that's not translated to the playoffs, which is our number one priority. I mean, the guy's hitting 211 in his career. If you're in the Yankees, you're going to get a lot of opportunities. He's almost at 200 at-bats or 200 plate appearances, about 170 at-bats. To hit 211 and to strike out the amount of times he has is preposterous, especially when he finally fixed his approach, wasn't striking out as much this year, playoff start, and then it's back to square one. He's striking out every at-bat. You can't have that. We won't win like that. So do I want to lock him up, or did I want to lock him up for 9 years, $360 million, $40 million a year? It's dicey, right? Clearly, the age is the first issue. He's 31 already, so I think at the end of this, when it's all said and done, he's going to be 40 years old. He's not a small guy. He's the biggest guy in the MLB, which historically big guys don't age well either. He's had an injury history. I get that a lot of them have been freak, but you tie that all into him again, kind of giving you this idea that he didn't want to be here. I was kind of in favor of them going the other way, right? I thought if they would have went the other way, not have been buckled down with this $360 million contract, maybe panic and throw Bogarts a huge deal as well as Correa, and now you shore up the middle of your infield, I thought it would have been a good opportunity. So when I saw that the Giants basically signed him, when Heyman tweeted that, I was in my kitchen, and I remember it's weird when, like, obviously I like Judge a lot, but I also kind of I was indifferent to him leaving. So when the news came out, I was almost just like smiling. I was like, oh my God, like this is actually, oh my God. I tweeted like, this is a great thing for the Yankees. Like, I hate to say it, but blah, blah, blah. And then the tweet gets peeled back, and then it's this weird thing where I still was convinced he was going to the Giants. But apparently not. So this morning he signs with the Yankees. Again, I'm not mad, but here's the issue. Let's address some things. The Yankees have now spent a lot of money just to get back to where they were that didn't win them a playoff series against the Astros last year, and they still haven't signed back Benintendi or a left fielder in general, and they have a lot of weaknesses in their lineup, clearly, and they haven't addressed any of them. So, sure, it's great to lock up Judge. Now you have a perennial MVP candidate on your team, a fan favorite. The kids love him, all that stuff, but it's going to cost you $40 million a year. You're still, you've not improved whatsoever from last year, which is the scary thing. So we're going to see in the coming days. I want to give them a chance. We're going, and I don't even want to discuss the Cashman 4-year deal. It's ridiculous. But if they make some moves, it gets interesting. The first one being, Rodon or Rodone. I don't know how to say it. No one knows how to say it. Joe Beningo is saying Rodan. My dad's saying Rendon, like he's the third baseman for the Angels. Who knows? But anyway, is Rodon good? Sure. He's had some injury history as well and never pitched well at all, except for the last 2 years. He figured it out, sure. You can obviously play with some mechanics, and then all of a sudden you get good. So that's very plausible. It's very doable. He's looked like an ace the last 2 years. Pitching is not the issue with this team. I keep beating my head against the wall. All these Yankee fans are. There was a guy on Twitter. Who tweeted. And I get that anyone with hands can tweet, but still, he tweets that Garrett Cole, Rodon, if they signed him, Severino, Nestor, and Frankie Montas would be the best pitching rotation in the history of baseball. What fucking world is this guy living in? I had to tweet at him. I had to do it, and then I went on some like debate with some kids. That is a disgrace. First of all, I don't want to see Frankie Montas near a mound, even in spring training. Get him off the team now. His energy, his aura is off. I don't want him near the mound. Severino, I lost so much respect for him after those comments when the ball didn't go over the fence for Judge, and then Bregman hit that shot with the wind in Houston. Lost a lot of respect. Is he still good? Yes. Always gets hurt. So you cannot rely on Luis Severino. Nestor, I love. I love Nestor. He's a question mark, though. Last year was his first basically full year as a starter. And it's scary when he really couldn't handle the amount of innings pitched, and he obviously was hurt the last postseason game he pitched in. So he's a little bit of a question mark. Severino is clearly a question mark. Garrett Cole's Garrett Cole. And then who am I forgetting? And then Rodon, who is also an injury risk and is good, though. You're going to tell me that's the best pitching staff in the history of baseball? I mean, take a look at the Houston Astros from this year. Take a look at the Dodgers from opening day this year. They're both better off the bat. And then you can argue about if DeGrom was on the Mets, if DeGrom was pitching and was healthy this year, their rotation was better. I mean, this isn't even close to one of the best rotations of all time. So these Yankee fans are delusional, and it just annoys me. But so getting back to it, they need hitting. So I think you need to sign Benintendi. I look at a spot in left field with I mean, I like Oswaldo Cabrera, but he should not be the everyday starting left fielder. Come on. So you got to sign Benintendi, and I don't want Nimmo. Benintendi, or you trade for Brian Reynolds if they sign Rodon. So if you're going to sign Rodon, you spend a lot of money then. So you're going to have to trade some prospects for Brian Reynolds, which is fine. But they're going to pitch the fan base like Brian Reynolds is like this incredible player. He's okay. He's good. He had a good year 2 years ago. He's good. I don't think he's much of a down or upgrade from Benintendi. Remember, Benintendi is like a 280 hitter. He had a great year last year. He's got a weak arm, but he plays a good left field. And he's likable, and he's clutch, and he's a contact hitter. And he's lefty. So we want him. I don't want any of this Nimmo chatter. I know he's good. I know he gets on base, but I don't need him on the team. I don't need him sprinting to first base. And then as the times go down and you're thinking about other guys, Conforto's out there, you could take a flyer on him, but you're still not addressing really the core issues of your lineup. Even if you get Benintendi still, you're still at a disadvantage. There's so many lineups in this league that are way better than the Yankees and have competent, if not as good pitching as the Yankees would. So I'll be upset. I'll be very upset if the moves the Yankees made this offseason were Aaron Judge and Rizzo to re-sign, which you had to do. And then a little Tommy Kahnle bone you throw, and maybe Rodon. That's not going to fix anything. This team will still be lagging to the finish line. They will not be a contender to win a championship. They'll look good on paper. They'll have 95 wins at the end of the year. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs until either everyone's healthy at the final stretch and they also all hit, or you make a big move at the deadline. So that's really my views on the Yankees so far. There's a lot to still transpire, so I don't want to jump the gun here. So we'll see. I think Glaber can get traded. I think there's a lot of different moves that can be made. Want to also discuss, before we jump off the Yankees completely, that Michael Kay, and I don't want to bash people. I've been in this nice aura. I've been in this nice energy state where I don't want to talk negatively about anyone to put that into the universe, but I got to do it. I got to dip back into my old pockets for this one. Michael Kay is the worst. First of all, I hate to say it, and everyone knows this, though. He is a brutal play-by-play announcer. I've grown up my whole life having to listen to him. All of his energy and all of his calls he makes are manufactured. They're not natural. They're not organic. His home run call is disgusting. He comes off as like he kisses everyone's ass, and so he seems fake. His radio show is another. His radio show, every time I tune in, it's him trying to appeal to the masses without having any balls, or him giving some condescending rant to all Yankees fans about how the Yankee fans should think and feel and why any move X, Y, and Z from the front office is justified. He's a puppet for the Yankees, but then he goes on the postgames in the playoffs and is bashing them and booing. The guy has no spine. No, and honestly, I get that he has a lot on his plate, so I do respect that he has the play-by-play. He has the radio show, right? He does a lot of after the post-game stuff. Then he's doing center stage he used to do. So I respect him in that regard. He obviously has a great work ethic, and he made it. But he sucks. He absolutely sucks. And you pair that with Meredith Marakovits, I literally have to watch games with a doggy bag. I'm gonna throw up. It's disgusting. I have to watch the game with a garbage pail to my right, because every other inning when Meredith gives her sideline review or whatever the fuck she does, when she speaks like a robot, I have to lean down and pull my trigger. Okay, so I mean that I'm tired of that. So that's I'm having a great time with football right now. I don't even want to think about the Yankees or baseball, but obviously this winter meeting scenario, as well as free agency in general, has made me have to delve into it. So that's it for the Yankees. That's it for Yankees Twitter and all these people who are acting like they're all crying that Judge got re-signed, like we're going to win a championship now. Nothing's changed. The team is the same. It's actually downgraded without Benintendi. So, okay. Now you get to some moves in general. So I guess we'll discuss DeGrom first. I never liked DeGrom in terms of his attitude. Obviously, he's electric, the best pitcher I've ever seen when he's healthy. The issue clearly is he can never be healthy. That might be a Mets thing. They might have babied him. We don't know that. He could, for all I know, throw 30. He could have 32 starts this year and kill it for the Rangers. I don't know. But two things are certain. He never wanted to be in New York. He really didn't. And now all of those weird, like condescending, very standoffish press conferences he's always had and comments he's made are clear to that. And I think it was Alana Rizzo on High Heat was saying this, and it's also true. The way he went out, where he doesn't even let the Mets give a counter, he leaves on a Friday, so the media can't really jump down his throat and ask him some questions about leaving the Mets. He left like an absolute coward. So if I'm a Mets fan, and I get it, that's your guy, but you got to remember this. He was your guy because the Mets organization for the last 10 years, besides 2015, and obviously this year, were nothing. So I get why Mets fans would grab at they love their guy because he is the representation of the best pitcher in the league, and he's on your team. And you're not rooting for the team to win, or you are, but it's not going to happen. So that's kind of an afterthought. So I get that, but now you gotta realize, okay, it's 2022, new ownership. The team is completely different. It's a completely different franchise, and now every year they're gonna have a legitimate chance to either contend or win a championship. So I wouldn't be too upset if I was a Mets fan. I wouldn't. Just similar to how I felt about, and I was wrong. I felt that Judge was very standoffish with the media in terms of I thought he didn't want to be there. I was proven wrong in that regard, but clearly not with DeGrom. He didn't want to be here, and let him go. Good. The Rangers are spending a lot of money. They're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. So in that division, they're not going nowhere. So, like, good. Let him take his money. The Mets are better off for it. Do I love the panic? And we'll get into Verlander. I don't love the panic move either of signing Verlander, but he's an upgrade from DeGrom. Assuming he doesn't get, like, devastatingly hurt again, which I don't think he will, this is a guy who clearly was one of, if not the best pitcher in the American League last year and in all of baseball, Cy Young winner. But he's going to give you innings. The Mets, this is what's interesting. The Mets were as good as they were last year. DeGrom threw 11 starts. I think he was either 5-6 or 6-5. So now you're basically subbing out DeGrom for Verlander, which is an inherent upgrade. I get he's 40 and you're paying him a ton of money, but you're in win now mode. So if I'm a Mets fan, I'm excited. Losing Taijuan Walker doesn't bother me a bit. Let the Phillies overpay. The Phillies are spending, and you got to respect it. But the deal that he got was really over the top. I mean, I think it might have been over $70 million, I want to say, which, I mean, God bless the Phillies, and he'll be a good guy to just throw out there every fifth day, but, like, I thought that was a little ballsy. Also, on the flip side, I'm sad to see Taillon go. Jameson Taillon, I mean, listen, he's not a great pitcher. He's a good pitcher. He had a lot of adversity early in his career, being that high of a draft pick, getting hurt all the time. And he made something out of his career. And now you got to feel good for him. I get money's fake in the MLB because even when he wasn't making money, he was making millions of dollars. But he locked up a big bag, $68 million. Cannot be more happy for him. Seems like such a nice guy. And everything he was asked to do on the Yankees, he did. And he did a good job. So I have no issues with Jameson Taillon, and I wish him the best. I really do. I wish him the best. Now, also, another Mets little thing is Mets got to sign back Nimmo. Have to sign back Nimmo. The fan bases, I mean, I know a lot of Mets fans growing up in Long Island. They all love Nimmo, and not many guys in the market can do what he does. Do I think $22 million is going to be a brutal overpayment of him? Yeah, but that's what the market is now. So I would rather, if I'm a Mets fan, I would way rather Nimmo than Benintendi, way rather him than Conforto. There's a couple more guys out there, but that's really it. So I think you need Nimmo. You can't let the Rockies outbid you, and then he'll just slip into irrelevancy, just like Chris Bryant. And then with Bassett, I mean, the Mets rotation's interesting because they have lost a lot of guys, but I wouldn't want Chris Bassett. I understand he was so consistent in the regular season, but he made all those. First of all, I'll never forget this. I'm a Yankee fan who doesn't hate the Mets at all, but sometimes when they get a little cocky, it annoys me. And I'll never forget when the whole tide was turning, Buck comes in, new ownership, the whole nine. They get all these guys. They sign Scherzer, and now they're playing the A's in like the first or second month of the year. And the A's threw with them, and I think the Mets won in like a close game, and Bassett pitched. And this is like April or May. Bassett's talking like their locker room is like grizzled, like that they're so ready to win a World Series, and how no one can step to them. And he's talking cocky, and then he crumbles like literally the biggest coward I've ever seen a pitcher do in his last two starts, being in Atlanta. basically to clinch the division and then in the playoffs. So he's a clown to me. If you're a Mets fan now, a lot of my Mets fans friends, it's gross to me. They're saying like, no, he was great. I like him. He was 3.45 ERA. He ruined your season last year. He ruined the best season you've had in, let's call a spade, in decades. Ruined it. So I don't know how you could want that guy back when his comments after those starts were like off base. They were just the guy does not he's not cut for New York. Don't sign him back. If I'm a Mets fan, I do not want him. They got Quintana, not that great, and he's old, but that'll get it done. You got to remember again, the Mets are going to be there when it matters. So the trade deadline is a very spicy thing. You never know what they can get on the trade deadline. I don't think you need Chris Bassett right now, especially for the money. They're going to overpay for him. Between that and Nimmo, I'll take Nimmo all day long if they have to choose between which one to sign. That's really it. I guess the other big splash is Trey Turner. People are throwing the San Diego Padres are throwing around money like I've never seen before. I mean, to offer Turner the highest contract for a shortstop ever, and for him to deny it and do the same, they offered Judge $400 million over 10 years. Their owner and general manager, they just go for it. They kill it. So I got to commend them on that. But it's kind of embarrassing that none of these guys want to go there. If you're Trey Turner, that was a lot more money. I understand like $380 million to $390 or whatever. That's different. But to go from $360 something to $300, that's a big deal to me. So and also, I mean, I guess the taxes are higher because it's in California. But yeah, so the Phillies are legit. I think the NL East not only got better, but especially if the Braves either sign Bogarts, Correa, or sign back to Swanson. But a lot of talent and a lot of spending power in the NL East. I think the Mets are. I think the Phillies are the best team in the NL East, and then probably the Braves. It's close. Everyone's close. I think the Mets probably are the third. I don't want everyone to like attack me, but Mets are a slight third, I would say, and then obviously the Marlins and the Nationals are nowhere. But yeah, the NL East is stacked. I think Trey Turner's gonna be good for a long time. It's a great signing. When you pair him and Harper up, a lot of talent. So that's exciting. So that's really all I got for the winter meetings. So you got a lot of guys out there. You got the three shortstops. You have Nimmo, Benintendi, and Conforto. So a lot of people still to sign. So it's going to be interesting. I'll probably make another video when all those dominoes fall. So that's my baseball wrap up. And then I want to quickly get to football and specifically the Jets because I want to make this clear. I've not been a good Jets fan my whole life. I grew up, my dad's a Jets fan. When I was a kid, I liked the Jets. Curtis Martin was my favorite player. Then like Brett Favre comes in town. Obviously Chad Pennington. I'll never forget like Chad Pennington's like what turned me off to Chad Pennington was on like Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. They asked him his favorite food. He said biscuits and gravy. Dirty. So that was what it was. Then you go to the next era, right? You get the Favres and the Sanchez's of the world. And when I was in high school, like when I was like a freshman in high school and the Jets were in the AFC Championship twice in a row, that was fun. It was different, though, because that team was based really off of the personality of Rex Ryan, and then in terms of players, it was all defensive. The talent, I mean, it was run it down your throat, Thomas Jones, guys like that, an old LT. It wasn't – all the receivers were kind of old, and then Mark Sanchez was a real game manager. So, like, it never – and Revis was exciting, but – so there was never a real like excitement, but obviously I was really into it when they lost to the Steelers. I remember that was brutal. I was really upset, but that was, and then after that they slipped into the worst irrelevant period ever with guys that were so hateable like Bowles and Gase, and I still to this day hate Adam Gase. I wasn't even really involving myself with the Jets, but I would always talk about how much I hated Adam Gase and how much of a joke he was. Like if you unfortunately came into this world as Adam Gase's son or daughter, I feel really bad for you because he's just a bad guy. He's just clearly a scumbag bad guy. So anyway, they bring in Saleh, who I liked in San Francisco. He always pumped me up at the sideline. And I started following more close attention. It was exciting. But I'm going to cut straight to the chase here. This Jets roster right now is the most likable roster in any sport I've ever rooted for, ever. That's including the Yankees and any other team you want to say. This is the most fun I've ever had watching football in my 20X amount of years, 27 years. This is it's incredible. First of all, Garrett Wilson could be my favorite athlete of all time. So I had a couple guys I loved when I was a kid in football. Arian Foster is probably my favorite running back ever and probably my favorite guy to watch. I loved, in terms of the Jets, again, it was a little tough. I mean, I have a bunch of jerseys. I liked a bunch of guys, but there's been no one like Garrett Wilson, where he is an absolute superstar. The way he carries himself before and after the game, his swagger, and he's actually amazing. So watching him, and then you pair up like all of these. Forget about Mike White for a second. Sauce and all these young guys are so like into it. Obviously, Brees Hall's been knocked out, but Brees, like everyone, it's such a likable roster. Everyone's coming together and rallying around Mike White, and I think you need that. I've been saying Zach Wilson is like King Joffrey or Prince Joffrey from Game of Thrones. The Jets needed a guy to point to and say, "I'm the bad guy," right? Seriously though, they needed a guy to point to and hate and say, "Fuck you," because not only was it good for the team because Zach Wilson was not getting it done, and they did need to change a quarterback. But on top of both those things, it gives you like a point of commonality where now everyone rises up and is like on the same page. And when the defense is cheering about Mike White, and obviously the guys on offense, they're making Bam Knight look like he's fucking like it's just such a fun team to watch. The coaching staff is great. I don't get bothered by Saleh not really coming out and saying Mike White is the starter now, and he's still saying it's week to week because what is he going to say? But Zach Wilson in a hoodie on the sidelines means that he's done. So Zach Wilson, so long, goodbye. And there's a lot of big games coming. This is the most important football stretch I've had in my life. I mean, really, we have Buffalo this week. Exciting. I really don't expect them to beat Buffalo, but, I mean, it's going to be a fun game. I don't expect, especially Buffalo finally is catching their stride. Josh Allen's playing better, and you got to believe in their head they're going, all right, we lost to the Jets last time we played. I mean, that was a joke. We're coming out and we're slaughtering. I can see that happening. But the Jets, this is the thing. The Jets, you never know now because their defense is so good. They have a chance in every game, and because of their offensive weapons, even like Elijah Moore, if he gets that foot down last game, that was the only issue. But a lot of just question marks in a good way. So against Minnesota, that loss sucked, and I was on the edge of my seat that whole game. It was amazing, or at the second half, I should say. But I wasn't upset about that loss. It really showed me, it cemented how this team's for real. So, I mean, there's not in any specific order, but yeah, you got Buffalo, you got Detroit, you got Seattle, you got Miami, and then you got Jacksonville. You need 3 out of 5 of those. You need 3 out of 5. So if you beat one of these good teams, if you can beat Buffalo, you make that a hell of a lot easier. If not, you got to go ahead and you got to do what you're supposed to do. You got to beat Seattle, which is going to be a tough one. I think it's in Seattle. You got to beat Detroit, and then you got to beat Jacksonville, who they show up sometimes, they don't show up other times. I'll tell you what, Lawrence is 80 times the quarterback that Wilson is. I don't care. Even though he started off slow, him and Fields and fucking Mac Jones, everyone looks better than Zach Wilson. So let's get to the bottom of this. I am a bleeding Jets fan now. This is so exciting to me. Call me a bandwagon fan. I don't give a shit. This is fun to me, especially that I don't gamble. This has been the most fun I've had watching football in years. I used to have my friends every Sunday in high school. I'd have in my basement. We had an NFL Sunday ticket. We'd have 2 TVs, and we watch all the entirety of Sunday football. Red zone on one team, and we're on the same fantasy football league, all talking shit, fighting. It was amazing, right? We'd order pizza every week or whatever. This is better. I swear to God, I'm sorry to say it, but when you got guys in the way I'm watching, like, it reminds me of my Yankee fandom. After every game and before every game, I'm watching all the post games, all the press conferences. I'm watching all the like SNY does coverage on the Jets. I'm watching all these YouTube channels that cover the Jets. I'm glued to talk radio. Joe Beningo on it Mondays on Tiki and Tierney is an absolute must watch. I got to listen to Boomer in the morning talk about the Sunday. And believe it or not, when Sunday is over, like it sucks because I have to wait another full week for Jets football. That's how much I'm into it right now. So let's hope they can string some wins together and get into the playoffs, because either way, this team has so much potential. They're so young, and I'm looking very forward to it. So knocked out baseball free agency, knocked out, obviously, this quick little Jets thing. And tomorrow I'll record some regular observations, some things I've experienced over the last couple of weeks, some stories involving a cockroach, believe it or not. I mean, just gross stuff, and hopefully some funny stuff. So Johnny Kith out, and let's go Jets, and hopefully the Yankees can make some better signings than just bringing back the guys they had last year. So cheers.